Okay, now we can get down to business here. Okay, I want to do a song here that Bob Wills recorded some years ago. It kind of fits part of my life. The words, if you listen to the words of that, some of it will fit me and some maybe not, but we'll give it a try. A little tune called Home in San Antonio. My real name when I was born was Giuseppe Quartuccio, Jr. I was born in Morella, Sicily, which is near Palermo, Sicily. And at 6 years old, in 1930, we came to the United States. My father was here already, and he came here earlier to make enough money to get us over here. And we went through Ellis Island. Statue of Liberty was right there. And from there we went to Cleveland, Ohio, where my father was living with his compadre. And we were 3 families living in one small 2-bedroom house. And I remember that my brother and I and uncle were sleeping in one bed. And my mother and father had one bedroom, the other family had the other bedroom, and they had 3 daughters, which they all slept in one bed. So that's how bad it was back in the 30s. Well, in 1936, one of my father's first cousins, who he came to the United States with, there were 3 of them. There was 2 brothers and my father. Well, the one that came to California was the most successful one because California was not in poverty as bad as the East Coast. Well, when he came to visit my father in 1936, he saw how bad things were, that he told my father, look, you got to come to California. I'm doing well there, and I'll see that you have a job the rest of your life. So my father and Uncle Carl and myself came on a truck, while my mother and 7 of them were on a little Ford, 1936 Ford. And we were just like pioneers going across the country. We'd leave notes on telephone posts en route, so we would look at certain towns we get into. When we get in the city limits, we look for some kind of a sign on a post or a tree, the first one we come to. And we kept in touch with each other because they were ahead of us with the car. Well, we come to San Jose, and in May of 1936, I was, 12 years old, and the next day after we got here, it was cherry season, and we went to work the next day. My father was picking cherries, and we started picking cherries like grown-ups, and then they got me carrying buckets. So when the cherry pickers fill their buckets up, I used to go give an empty bucket, carry the buckets, and I got 10 cents an hour. Sometimes we worked 12 hours a day, so I made $1.20, which was big money, especially in those days. And to make some extra money, we used to crack walnuts at nighttime. We used to shell them, and we got so much if they were halves or so much if they were quarters. So and we didn't have no radio. So my father said, well, the first money we make here on these walnuts, we'll buy you a radio for the kids to make us happy. So we did. We bought a little small radio. And the first person we hear on there was Dude Martin. And that's the first time I ever heard country music or cowboy music. Back in those days, it was cowboy music. Well, that hit me so hard that, man, I'll tell you, I said, man, I want to be a cowboy singer someday.
Somewhere west of Pecos, there's a cowboy that's hip. He used to serenade the cattle, but without any pep. A-singing mighty sadly of his home on the range. Now he does his boogie-woogie, and man, what a change.
And I used to bang my guitar while Dude Martin and I were playing. That's how I got started. Then, as time went on, I formed a 3-piece band because I wanted to be just like Dude Martin. My mind was made up. That's who I want to be. Anyway, I got started there with myself and Hank Doust. He played the fiddle, I played the guitar. Well, that was the beginning, because right after that, things started changing. I played in nightclubs. You know, we were too young to play in nightclubs, but we still did it. We got away with it and worked for tips. And we used to make $6, $4 for the three of us. We were three-piece. And we were, happy as heck for young kids making that. When I come back from the Navy in 1946, I got married right after I got home. And we were married, Jenny and I were married maybe a month or two when Club Metro heard I was back. So they called me up and said, how'd you like to play it for us at Club Metro? And I said, I really wasn't planning on doing it anymore, because I got married and I had to go to work and make a living. Things were really rough, so playing was, unless I made some money out of it, didn't pay me to do it. Oh, no, we'll pay you. You'll make some good money, Well, good money in those days was $12 a night, and which was a help for me. So we played at Club Metro. We started playing there. And boy, before you know it, the places started getting packed, and it got so packed that you couldn't get no more people in the place. Well, it was lucky for me that happened, because Mr. Snell and Mr. Farr from Radio Keene heard about me, and they just opened. They were going to open up Radio Keene. This was in 1947, and they sent an engineer out there to listen to us. So they approached me and said, "Jay, how'd you like to be on the radio?" And I thought the guy was kidding. Never in my mind entered that I'd be on a radio. Radio had to be the big key to success, because that's what made Dude Martin. Dude Martin was the only one around here that was on the radio, and I mean, he had an audience that you can't believe. And I know that once I got on the radio, man, I would have a good opportunity to become somebody. Well, it sure did, because when I did get on the radio, I was on Radio Keene for 3 years, from 1947 to 1950. Well, by that time, my reputation started getting recognized. I had a good audience of my own, because we had Tracy Gardens, which was a place where it became the biggest Western dance spot in Northern California.
I'll never cry over you, 'cause I won't let my tears come through. And I'll never even sigh when you're leaving. You'd only laugh if you knew I was grieving. And I'll never try to pretend that I'm sorry this is the end. You're not the kind to care if we're through. That's why I'll never cry over you.
Man, that was the best thing that ever happened to me, because we took over Tracy Gardens, and we were there from 1950 to 1957. And not only that, but I got involved with booking all the big guys from Nashville. I booked Hank Williams, I booked Hank Snow, I booked Ernest Tubbs, Lefty Frizzell, the Riders of Purple Sage, well, you name it, Tex Ritter. I played for at least 40 or 50 big-time superstars in those days, and I backed them up with our music. We had offers to go with Tommy Duncan when he left Bob Wills. I used to have him here on Saturday nights once in a while, and he begged me he said, "Look, Shorty, we make a good team. We'll have a Bob Wills band here. You got a Bob Wills band here. Go on the road with me," But my mind was not that to become a big star. It was more or less I like to do what Dude Martin did. I felt if I got as high as Dude Martin, I'd be satisfied. I'm happy.
Please forget, and I remember you were the one who was untrue.
I didn't do this as a business, really, because I had a job. I was working in Moffett Field for NASA, and I had a family. I had a son and a daughter, Joanne and Jolie. And my life is family orientated, and a lot of people accepted that more because I was a family man. Because I eventually had a manager. And once I had a manager, well, I didn't have no home life because he had me playing here, playing there. He had me booked to go to Alaska once. He had me booked to go to the Northwest, and I finally canceled it. I wouldn't do it because it would take me away from my family. So, I wasn't doing it for a business. I was doing it to make extra money and enjoyed doing it.
And I remember you were the one who was untrue.
In 1936, we came to California, and one of the first families that we met at work was Jenny's family. Her mother and my mother packed cherries at the ranch, and Jenny's father was a foreman of the ranch, so he was a boss. So I was actually part of the family already then. When I was 11 years old or 12 years old, and she was 10 or 11. But I got engaged before I went overseas. I happened to be home on leave, and I saw her and her sister standing in a corner waiting for the bus. And I had my father's in Model A, so this friend of mine and I told him, I said, hey, there's my girlfriend. And I haven't seen Jenny for years, actually. I haven't seen her for a long time because she grew up all of a sudden. So when I saw her in the corner there, I was, I guess, about 19. So she was 18, so she was a mature gal now. So I stopped and asked them where they're going. They're going to go to work. I said, well, I'll take you. And would you believe it that she sits in the back seat? I'm sitting in the front waiting for her to sit in the front. And I said, hey, you got to sit in the front. Let your sister sit in the back. And that's where it started. With Uncle Carl, that I mentioned earlier, he used to tease us, you two are going to get married someday. I grew up with her, actually, and I knew her parents. I went to school with her, and we worked together. So it was an automatic kind of thing. When I got home from the Navy and got discharged, the whole family planned the wedding. And nobody had any money, so we couldn't spend no money on no wedding. But there was a small hall down the street, and both sides got together and made sandwiches and things like that. And we had the wedding at this hall, which was a big wedding, actually, because I think we had about 200-300 people there. But it was everything was done by at the house, because we couldn't afford a big wedding. I started working in Moffett Field while I was in high school in 11th grade in 1942. But then I went in the Navy in 1942, so I was only in Moffett Field probably about 6 months before I went in the Navy. World War II was started a year before that, and they were drafting everybody. At 18 years old, you were in the draft age. But when I was getting ready to get a draft notice, I decided I volunteered in the Navy at 17 years old. And Moffett Field was trying to stop me from going into the Navy because they wanted to keep me in the paint shop. And they offered me to get in the Navy and be able to stay there for the rest of the duration of the war. But I was too patriotic. I chose to go fight. And I went in the Navy on October the 12th, Columbus Day, 1942. Well, we were training pilots to go overseas and also training the people. And usually they go as a group. It's called a casual outfit. Well, this casual outfit goes all together. They were CBs, aircraft mechanics, and the pilots. And they go into the invasions following the Marines. Well, again, I think there were 12 of us. They picked us out of the group and hold us back. The rest of the guys go overseas. Now we get a complete new outfit, new name, everything. Pilots, mechanics, and CBs. And I was in 6 different outfits before I finally went overseas. The war was still going on. I was lucky, really lucky, that I didn't go with these outfits because every one of them went through a lot of action and a lot of them got killed. The one that I was supposed to go with, to Iwo Jima, well, I was lucky. 90% of them died. So anyway, I stayed back, and lucky that we got a new outfit. We got a new commander. He was a lawyer, and the same group of guys created a new outfit. Well, this guy liked us so much that he wanted us to go overseas with him. So we wanted to go. So we decided to go with him. We went to Saipan. We weren't supposed to go to Saipan, but the invasion from Okinawa was too soon. So they were stalling for time. So they decided to go to Saipan, which was still in action. They were still fighting there. And we docked outside the port of Saipan for 7 days, I think it was, that we couldn't do nothing. We just stopped there to go to Okinawa. Well, the delay was so long that now it was too late, so they decided to stop in Saipan. So that's where we unloaded, in Saipan. We didn't go to Okinawa. And I stayed there the rest of the war. They were cleaning up the island because they're still fighting there and all that, but I didn't get in on the invasion of Okinawa because we were delayed. And lucky again, because most of those guys got killed. But anyway, when the war ended, I was running up my airplane, checking it out because the pilots getting ready to fly. And all of a sudden, I hear those sirens blowing. What the heck's going on, you know? And while I was running up my airplane, I could hear the siren blowing because I was getting ready to taxi the airplane in position for the pilot. These guys start running all around. Hey, the war's over. The war's over. I couldn't believe it. It happened just like that. So I shut down the airplane and got out and raised hell like everybody else. And the war was over. As soon as I got home, Moffett Field asked me to come back. So I went over there. Instead of going to the paint shop, though, they put me in a mechanic shop. Well, that was the beginning of a lot of things. Well, I was lucky that they picked me and two other guys to work on the first jet that was built. That's a P-80. And that was an honor to me because, boy, I didn't even, I didn't know nothing about a jet, It just came out. But I got in on the bottom floor, and nobody could even get near that airplane. In fact, we worked at nighttime, not even in the daytime. In the daytime, it was closed. So I got lucky there. Then I got on a P-51, which was an Army plane, and the project that they were doing on there, in fact, a picture of me on that airplane put in the model of what they were experimenting with on the wing of the airplane. And that picture was shown in 2 different magazines. Now, I worked when I first started, it was called NACA. Then when the space program came in, then it changed from NACA to NASA. So I worked from the ground floor from one to the other, and I was on the ground floor on everything that came out. And I worked all the way through the aircrafts, the space program. And in 1971, what I did is I bought the 18-acre piece of property up here near the Villages, here where I live now. But it had 11 acres of apricots. So for 10 years, Jenny and I worked in that orchard, losing money every year because there wasn't not enough there to make it money. So I started painting. I went back to my original trade, and I started painting. And I could have made a lot of money painting, but I want to have some free time. And then I started playing again with the music, and one thing to the other, I was keeping myself so doggone busy, I'd have no time to do anything. Then I finally sold the ranch 10 years later, and I moved here to the Villages, where I am now. But I still was playing a little bit at Italian Gardens. Well, not a little bit. I went there for one time, and I ended up being there 5 years.
Hi there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Italian Gardens. It took Shorty Joe 38 years to make it from Tracy Gardens to Italian Gardens. Shorty and I worked together at Keene and KLOK and a couple other places. And I want to be here to welcome him. My name is Bob Custer. Let's give a big Saturday welcome to Shorty Joe and the Red Rock Canyon Cowboys.
Morning night, moonlight on the sagebrush, purple swaying sagebrush, stars twinkle from the western sky.
The Western Insurance Society, the board of directors and the president, they asked me that they would like to put me in the Hall of Fame. Whoa, I couldn't believe that they're asking me. I'm from San Jose, not Sacramento, but Sacramento represents the whole country. They have people from all over going over there, and they enact so many people every year. Well, would you believe that the year that I got enacted, Roy Rogers was enacted, and Jimmy Dean was enacted. So I can say that I got enacted in the Hall of Fame with Roy Rogers and Dale Evans.
Would you please welcome Shorty Joe Quartuccio of San Jose, California.
Right there. All right there.
As soon as I get up there, you meet Senator Green, the president, and the committee. Then they ask you to say a few words.
Well, I've been honored so many times in so many places, but I'll tell you, this has got to be the biggest honor of my life. The reason for that is, first, I want to thank a few people like United States for letting us go through Ellis Island in 1930.
All right.
The land of opportunity, where everybody can pick out what they want, and if they work hard at it, they'll make it. Anyway, I want to thank people like Duke Martin, Ted Johnson, that were on Radio KLX, like you said, that inspired me to become a Western singer. I want to thank Hank Doust, who's here tonight.
All right, Hank.
We went to school together, and he was my partner. Without him, I wouldn't be here, because he took care of the band. He made the band that we had. That's why I got recognized. I want to also thank the Black Brothers, who are also getting a Hall of Fame today. They worked for me back in the 50s. Bill Thomason, who was up here, he's another fellow that worked for me. And Pee Wee White Wing, I guess I haven't seen him, so I guess he didn't make it. But that's to be proud by itself right there, to have all those fellas, after 40 years, being inducted in the Hall of Fame together.
That's right.
To me, that's a very big honor.
Team.
Now, the biggest one I got to thank is my wife, because
That's right.
without her, I could never do what I did. So thanks everybody, the Western String Society, for giving me this opportunity to come up here and introduce myself here during the year. And you people have been so great to me that I'll never forget it the rest of my life. Thank you.
All right.
I would never in my life think that I would have a life like I did. Never. Because we were prune pickers and apricot cutters. But since then, I've seen what the other side of the fence is like. But I still like it in the middle of the fence. I don't want to change. I'm going to stay what I am.